HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents Black Label by James Latoile, read by Sara Sheckells. There is no such thing as paranoia. Your worst fears can come true at any moment. Hunter S. Thompson. Chapter 1. It was bad this time. Jillian shielded her eyes from the sharp edge of morning light and dug her fingers into the pillow clutched over her face. Deep in her temples, her pulse hammered a fast, painful staccato rhythm. She'd gone months since her last migraine, and this one tightened a vice around her skull. Even with her eyes closed, her vision clouded with a kaleidoscope of bright dots. The rustle of bed covers sounded like the world fell in around her. Jillian Cooper's world had crumbled down and threatened to suffocate her. Only she didn't know it. Yet. She reached for the phone she kept on her bedside table. There was no way she was going to make it to her Saturday morning spin class. Her hand probed for the phone, her head still tucked under the pillow. First one way, then she groped in another direction, knocking over a small brass table lamp. Jillian recoiled from the clatter as the metal lamp rung as loudly as the bells at Saints Peter and Paul Church over in North Beach. She peeled off her protective pillow and reached for the phone. Her phone wasn't on the bedside table, and neither was the stack of paperback books she habitually kept at hand. Blinding pinpricks of light danced in her vision, making it impossible to focus through the swirling aura. Fighting against the pounding in her head, Jillian crept to the edge of the bed, dangled her legs over the side, and brushed her toes gently on the polished hardwood floor. Jillian shuddered. A wave of nausea poured over her. The feeling wasn't from a migraine. It came from the realization she wasn't in her apartment. Her place didn't have hardwood floors. Jillian didn't know where she was. Or worse, how she got here. Instead of her phone, a half-empty Grand Patron Platinum tequila bottle and a wrinkled condom wrapper lay on the nightstand. She spotted her clothes on the other side of the room in a heap on a leather chair. Jillian pulled the sheet away from herself and peered downward. Shit! She was naked under the bed covers. Jillian couldn't remember the slightest detail leading up to her ending the night disrobed, nor could she feel the lingering warmth of being with someone, in spite of the condom wrapper left on the nightstand. She'd never experienced a blackout from alcohol before. Jillian stayed away from tequila as a rule because of a few bad hangovers back when she attended San Francisco State University. If it weren't for the half-empty bottle of pricey booze, she'd have sworn she hadn't touched the stuff in 10 years. Yet here she was, tequila, nakedness, and all. She hoped a tall, dark, handsome, athletic man was going to burst through the bedroom door with a tray of cappuccinos and warm croissants. At this point, a short, round, gnomish man with instant coffee and a day-old Pop-Tart would be welcome. It wasn't her habit to sleep around, as her mother used to call it. However, Jillian Cooper was a woman who enjoyed the occasional company of men, and this was not the first time she'd greeted the sunrise from a man's place following a late-night hookup. She always remembered them, until this morning. The migraine and the tequila played games in her head, loud, pulsing, and painful games. The bedroom, where she did God only knows what, was expensively furnished and decidedly masculine. Dark hues of burnished leather and deep mahogany dominated the space. A set of wooden horizontal blinds kept out some light, and in spite of her headache, curiosity demanded she open them. The window looked out over Huntington Park and Nob Hill, some of the priciest real estate in San Francisco. From her vantage point, Jillian figured the room sat on the 6th floor, or higher, and commanded a view of the gray slate tile roof of Grace Cathedral and Mount Sutro off to the south. The condo, or whatever this place was, offered the resident one of those $10 million views everyone wanted, but few could afford. Jillian's salary as a vice president of marketing for Dynalife Pharmaceutical wouldn't buy the dust in a place like this. Another wave of nausea buckled Jillian's knees. She grabbed onto a dresser near the window and braced herself while the queasiness passed. As she opened her eyes, she focused on a silver-plated frame on the top of the dresser. Jillian peered at a photograph of her own image, a picture of her with her boss, Jonathan Matson, the CEO of Dynalife Pharmaceutical. Confusion and panic clawed at Jillian's mind. Matson was 35 years her senior and married to one of the city's society matrons. Jillian supposed some women found him attractive, with his swagger and ease with which he flaunted his wealth. There were lines Jillian did not cross. Never, ever get involved with someone at work, and married men were off limits. What was she doing here? Naked in Matson's apartment. Had Jillian broken both rules? The thought of a relationship with Matson was unthinkable. The photograph meant they'd been together before. The two looked at ease with one another in the photo, and it hinted at a close personal relationship, her hand on his chest. When the hell was that taken? She had no recollection of an evening with Jonathan Matson, let alone posing for a photo. What have I done? Jillian staggered to the chair with her wadded-up clothes, slid into her panties, quickly stepped into her dark blue dress, shoved a bra in her purse, and grabbed her shoes from the floor. With an ear to the door, Jillian listened. Filtered by the thrum of her heartbeat, she heard voices deep within the apartment. She felt her face flush, thinking about who she'd meet as she snuck out. Her hand trembled on the doorknob as she turned it, a fraction of an inch at a time, until the lock slid back with a muted click. The door opened inward a few inches. The voices became more distinct. A television. Shoes in hand, Jillian crept down the hallway. The hardwood floor felt cold under her bare feet as she made her way to the large open living space. A flat-screen television blared the financial news from CNN to an empty room. Jillian glanced at the kitchen, and she exhaled when she realized she was alone in the apartment. The veil of swirling bright spots in her vision started to clear, and she needed to head home for her migraine medication. She desperately wanted to leave before Jonathan Matson returned. She couldn't face him with the cocktail of anger and shame whirling inside her. Slipping on her shoes, she listened as the CNN anchor, a carefully coiffed and airbrushed young blonde reporter, delivered her monologue. "The market opened with a quick rally this morning," the anchorwoman said. "Today's Saturday and the market isn't open, bimbo," Jillian said. "Where do they find these people?" She found her jacket folded over the back of a sofa. Jillian tucked the jacket under her arm, reached for the apartment door, and stopped when she heard the woman's voice drone on. "In other financial news, the death of Dynalife Pharmaceutical CEO Jonathan Matson sent the mega pharmaceutical company's stock prices plummeting in early trading. Authorities are looking into the matter and haven't disclosed any details about the death." Jillian froze when the screen flashed a photo of Matson, with a banner under the image proclaiming, "Billionaire Pharmaceutical CEO Dead." The television news turned the page and droned on about other financial news. Matson was a mere footnote in the market ledgers. Business goes on. That can't be. Jonathan dead? Another cramp of nausea hit her, and she wrapped her arms around her midsection as if she held her insides together. The apartment space closed in on her, and when the spasms subsided, Jillian darted for the door and flung it open. She ran across the hall to an elevator and stabbed the down button repeatedly, willing the car to appear. The hallway space was foreign. Nothing in the decor sparked a memory of how she got here. But here she was, and it wasn't like she magically appeared in Matson's apartment. Jillian didn't know Jonathan kept an apartment on Nob Hill. It must have been a secret rendezvous pad for Jonathan and his rumored affairs. A wave of nausea swept over Jillian at the thought she was now among his conquests. The whir of the elevator stopped, and a light electronic bleep sounded the arrival of the conveyance. She slid into the empty elevator before the doors fully opened and punched the lobby button. The cool wall of the elevator car soothed the back of her head, the first comforting thing since awakening in this bad dream. She couldn't shake the nightmare off. Questions without answers cascaded through her mind. What happened? Where was she? Who was she with? Come on. Come on, she urged the doors as they closed at a slow, agonizing pace. It's not possible. Today is Saturday, and I saw Jonathan at a board meeting yesterday. Friday. It has to be a huge mistake. She drew in a deep breath and tried to center herself. The elevator chimed, and the doors opened into the building's lobby. Jonathan wasn't there to expose some elaborate practical joke. Instead, Jillian found the marble-tiled lobby empty, except for a doorman who gave her a smirk and a nod signaling, "I know what you did last night." The man leered and stroked his short stubble beard as Jillian passed his station. Jillian stepped outside to the curb and raised her hand for a taxi. She glanced at a newspaper rack on the sidewalk next to her, and the headline caught her breath short. Billionaire Jonathan Matson murdered. The date jumped off the page. It was the Monday edition. Matson was dead. She'd met with him on Friday and woke up in his apartment this morning. Jillian's knees buckled with the realization that 2 days passed without a single lingering memory. 2 days erased, without a trace. Chapter 2. A red and white taxicab pulled to the curb where Jillian stood, transfixed on the unreal newspaper headline. She didn't hear the driver call out, or hear the doorman step from behind and grab the taxi door. His appearance startled her, and his lecherous smirk did little to calm Jillian's growing anxiety. "Tough night, huh?" the doorman said. Jillian slid into the back seat without comment and pulled the door closed, separating her from the sleazy doorman. It looked to her like he enjoyed her discomfort. The cabbie watched Jillian in his rearview mirror, and he simply nodded at the address she gave him in the Sunset District, south of Golden Gate Park. She leaned her head against the window and closed her eyes, exhausted, even though she'd pulled herself out of bed only minutes ago. The damn migraines always drained her and made her want to crawl into a dark, quiet place. This headache was especially bad. It was a struggle to stay awake. The blank space in her memory worried her. She'd never experienced a blackout. She'd lost an entire weekend. A buzzing sensation ratcheted up her panic level until she realized it came from her cell phone. The sound rattled through her skull and set off a frantic search through her handbag. Her fingers found the phone beneath her bra. She clutched it, punching the green connect button, mercifully ending the noise. "Jillian Cooper," she responded. Her voice sounded as rough as she felt, graveled and raw. "Where are you?" Jillian knew the voice on the other end of the call. It was David Paulson, Dynalife's chief operations officer, the number 2 in the company after Matson. "I'm heading—" "Doesn't matter. Come to the office. The board called an emergency session to address the mess left in the wake of Jonathan's death," David said. Jillian paused. "You heard about Jonathan, right?" he asked. Yes, I heard. What happened?" "Time to sort Jonathan's story out later. Meeting starts in 15 minutes. You need to be here, Jilly." He abruptly hung up before Jillian could reply. She leaned forward toward the cabbie. "Change of plans. Could you take me to Battery and Pine? The cabbie nodded and looped the taxi east through Chinatown, where whole pig carcasses were unloaded from refrigerated trucks to dozens of restaurants through steel grates in the sidewalks. Jillian typically enjoyed walking through the spice shops, fortune cookie bakeries, and crowded gift shops. The collections of sights and aromas in the streets and alleyways were never the same, always a new and exciting discovery. This morning, however, the bright colors and gilded storefronts seemed garish and oppressive. The rows of smoked duck displayed in market windows made her stomach flip. City block boundaries marked changes, cultural and economic. Some communities flourished while others struggled to exist. Jillian wasn't sure where she fit today. Minutes later, the cabbie's quick stop jolted Jillian back to the present. She got out of her taxi in the heart of the city's financial district and headed into the Dynalife Pharmaceutical headquarters. The company held its offices in a tall glass corporate tower, in the shadows of the 61-story Salesforce Tower dominating San Francisco's skyline. The Dynalife lobby swarmed with frantic energy. On the occasion of a board of directors meeting, the pace in the office bordered on manic, but Jillian felt an undertone of urgency and desperation this morning. In the center of the bullpen, where the analysts worked in fabric-lined cubicles, David Paulson directed a score of underlings before his eyes caught Jillian. "Jesus, Jillian, you look like shit." "I got here as soon as I could," she said. David glanced at his watch. "The meeting's about ready to start. Main conference room." He pointed down the main hallway. "Go clean up." Jillian nodded and ducked into the women's restroom off the main lobby. The sight in the mirror surprised her. Black circles under her eyes from smeared mascara, pale, cracked lips, and smudged, worn makeup all conspired to paint Jillian older than her 33 years. Her dark brown hair hung limp and tangled around her face. A few brush strokes weren't going to help, so she pulled it back into a ponytail and secured it with a barrette from her purse. Rinsing the faded makeup from her face helped. The warm water relaxed her tensed jaw and allowed her a deep breath as she regarded her reflection. Jillian noticed a dark stain on her jacket sleeve, a few inches above her wrist. Great! What else can go wrong? She dabbed at the spot with a wet paper towel. The running water turned pink and grew dark crimson as she wiped. The paper towel in her hand came away soaked with blood. Jillian's hand recoiled at the sight. The towel fell into the sink, and Jillian watched the blood circle the drain. Though she couldn't recall a single moment from the missing 48 hours, she knew the blood was Jonathan Matson's. Jillian covered the bloody towel with another dry one and pitched them both into the trash. She scrubbed her hands until every trace disappeared and her hands felt raw from the effort. The face in the mirror. Jillian felt removed from it. She couldn't make eye contact with the other woman in the reflection. Jillian was afraid one of them killed Jonathan Matson. Chapter 3. The board meeting started before Jillian entered the conference room. She found a seat in the back, away from the long, polished table occupied by the board members and corporate officers. As one of Matson's team, Jillian usually sat at the table and participated in the discussions guiding the company's course. Today, there was a change in the air. Jillian's twisted gut and migraine hangover weren't helping her unsettled mind. A few heads lifted, faces flickered with recognition, as Jillian found a seat among other lower-level Dynalife employees. A rail-thin man with gray eyes occupied the spot where Jonathan Matson usually stood at these meetings. Jillian nodded at William Comstock, an investment banker with a reputation for running his firm with all the warmth and compassion of an old Soviet gulag. "If we can continue," Comstock said, commenting on Jillian's tardy arrival. Jillian looked away sharply and busied herself with the notes scribbled in her day planner. The handwritten highlights from last Friday's meeting opened a wound in her chest. Jillian's day planner summarized a meeting, one ending on a sour note. The last thing she recalled with any clarity before her blackout was a failed marketing proposal on a promising new HIV drug. Jonathan Matson didn't let Jillian finish her pitch and rejected her approach with an uncharacteristically harsh dismissal. He chastised her for delaying the drug's release and claimed her project was nothing but a waste of time and company resources. She felt the sting of his rebuke as if the words dripped with venom. She remembered trembling as Matson berated her in front of the executive team. She'd worked hard to establish her reputation as a tough, no-nonsense corporate shark, and he threatened to strip it all away and leave her bare. Bare, like she'd found herself in his apartment hours ago. What had she done? As she sat in the conference room, Comstock droned on about the corporate mission, vision, and values. Then he started in on how Dynalife was bigger than one man. The last interaction with Jonathan Matson was stuck in a painful replay in her mind. Anger. It finally registered with her what she felt. Simmering beneath the uncertainty was anger and resentment.
"Miss Cooper," Jonathan said in his last meeting, "Dynalife Pharmaceuticals is in the business of manufacturing high-grade medical pharmaceuticals. Business, Miss Cooper, not some save-the-world social cause. Distributing Bosphisian in third-world nations at cost is unacceptable. It's utterly unthinkable. This HIV treatment protocol will position the company at the top of the industry. We can name the price. Bosphisian will go to those who can pay for it, and pay for it they will. Besides, those third-worlders you care so much about are going to die anyway."
Before Jillian responded, Matson cut her off.
"This has been a total waste of my time. It seems you are a waste of my time."
Stunned at Matson's reaction, Jillian left the office, embarrassed, crestfallen, and incredibly angry. It was the last thing she remembered until she awoke this morning in Matson's bed. Her thumb rubbed against the wet spot on her sleeve, and the slick, tactile sensation snapped her back to the present. From her perch in the rear of the conference room, she only half listened to Comstock. He blathered on about getting the ship righted, staying the course, finding a safe harbor, and a half-dozen other nautically themed metaphors for Dynalife Pharmaceutical.
"This ship needs a new captain, and we will make the assignment within the next few weeks. Until then, David Paulson will serve as acting chief executive under the direction of the board," Comstock said.
Paulson nodded from his seat at the table.
"Our first priority is the strategy for pressing the Food and Drug Administration hand-wringers for approval of Bosphisian. Mr. Paulson has presented a few preliminary concepts to the board and has an interesting take on the future of our company. As I understand the matter, we experienced a few setbacks delaying the release of one of our feature products, but I've been assured our compass has since been recalibrated," Comstock said and glared at Jillian. She lowered her head, pretending to take notes. A sliver of thick paper stuck out from the planner pages. She flipped the pages and discovered another copy of the photo of Matson and her. Jillian's breath hitched. This can't be happening. This isn't real. She quickly turned the photo over before anyone seated next to her saw the image. On the back, scrawled in red felt marker, were 3 words that sent a chill up her spine. I did it. Jillian didn't hear the next few words over the thrum of her increased heartbeat, but the meeting ended, and she found herself alone in the conference room. Another time slip. She hadn't noticed the meeting finish, or the procession of board members and executives leave the room.
The lapse probably saved her from the pain from a score of judging glances and muttered condemnations. A voice pulled her from a trance. "Jillian," a voice sounded. "Jillian, David needs to see you." It was Lucy Travis, Paulson's executive assistant. "I'm sorry. What?" Jillian said. "David needs you." "Give me a minute. I'll be right along." As Lucy disappeared out the door, Jillian considered leaving the office and going home. She was in no mood to deal with David in her current state. This must be a bad dream. She'd take some Imitrex for her migraine, drink some hot tea, and go to bed. Jillian tucked the damning photo with the self-confession in the day planner and slammed it closed on her lap. She dropped the planner into her bag as she stood. She swore the planner felt hot, like a witch fire. Overcome with doubt and increasing anxiety, Jillian made for the door and bumped into a man in a dark blue suit. From the cut of the suit, she judged it Italian and pricey. The man, she figured, was one of the minions who followed on the heels of the board members. "Excuse me, I wasn't watching," she said. "Ms. Cooper?" the man said. "Yes." Wariness tickled at the base of her spine. "I need a moment of your time." "And you are?" "Inspector DeMano, San Francisco Police, homicide. We need to talk." Chapter 4. "I need some answers," DeMano said while he pulled his identification and badge from his jacket pocket. "We all need answers, Inspector." Jillian clutched her bag and angled for the exit. Inspector DeMano blocked the door to the conference room, and in spite of his thin build, he presented an imposing figure. Not a person to be toyed with, and not one who wasted his time on pleasantries or pointless conversation. The stubble of gray-black beard darkening his face betrayed the long hours since he last went off duty. DeMano gestured to the vacant conference table. "Take a seat, Miss Cooper." The words came out as a command, not a request. An icy ball formed in her stomach. She didn't know what happened to Jonathan Matson, but obviously, Inspector DeMano did, and it led him here, to her. She perched on the edge of one of the chairs, her back straight, her hands crossed in her lap, with one hand covering the bloodstain on her sleeve. DeMano pulled out the chair next to her and faced her. He remained silent for a moment, staring at Jillian. "How well did you know Jonathan Matson?" he said. "I don't know how much help I will be. I really didn't know Jonathan well. He was a private person," Jillian said. "How long have you worked at Dynalife?" 5 years. "How long did you know Matson?" 5 years. He hired me." "Who would you say was he particularly close with?" Jillian thought for a moment. "I don't know. He didn't seem to have any close relationships with anyone here." "Anyone he showed an interest in? Professionally, that is." "He didn't involve himself in staff matters," Jillian said. "Yet you told me he hired you," Inspector DeMano said. "Yes, with no appreciable marketing experience. How would you explain that, Miss Cooper?" "What are you insinuating?" "I'm saying the word among the staff here is you were the golden child." "Hardly," Jillian said. "Handed the plum accounts, fast-tracked to a senior position, then quickly appointed as a vice president. Some say you didn't deserve the I've worked hard for everything I've achieved. I've sacrificed for this company," Jillian said. She felt her face redden at the inspector's accusation. A flash of confusion washed over her. The photo in the purse at her feet and the gap in her memory ate away at her conviction. The unknown. The unthinkable. "I'm certain you worked for everything," DeMano said with an insinuating smirk. "I've given up my private life to ensure this company is positioned where it is today. Nothing was simply given to me or to any other employee here. It must...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?